Welcome into a Wednesday edition of Betting Weekly Fast Break. I am Doug Kezirian alongside fellow handicapper Wes Reynolds. And I say fellow, meaning fellow decked out in all blue, royal blue here, Wes, on this hump day. How are you, my friend?
Yeah, royal blue for Royal Port Rush, where we're going to start the Open Championship. I guess tonight on the West Coast, considering the first tee time will be about 10:30. So looking forward to that. And then last card of the WNBA before we hit the All-Star break in my hometown of Indianapolis.
Yeah, big, some interesting results already on some afternoon or matinee games with the summer camps in attendance. We have a few more WNBA games to get to. One tipping off right now, so we'll get right to that. Valkyries at the Storm. Golden State has won the first two meetings with Seattle. They're 5.5-point road dogs, over under at 156. What's your read on this game before we tip here?
I played a little 157.5 in the overnight, and that's where it's going to close about 56. So it's getting a little late tick up. But these have been defensive battles, I think, so far between these two teams. I don't know necessarily why this would be any different. So not a big play, but I did play a little under 157.5. I think the last two meetings, it was 146 and 141. One prop, Erica Wheeler over 9.5 points. Is where I went. She's been really good offense off the bench. She was kind of, lost in Indiana, where didn't get a lot of minutes there with that Fever team last year, but has gone to Seattle. I think made the most of her opportunity and has been a good scorer. I know she's going to be part of the All-Star weekend and the skills challenge portion. They also have the 3-point contest on Friday night, but under for me, not a big play, but could see a very good defensive game between Golden State and Seattle.
All right, so you're under 157.5. It's 156. Would you still play under at this price?
I'd probably pass. I don't know what the late movement here is toward the over. That doesn't mean it's necessarily right, but you never necessarily like to see that.
This buyback.
Yeah,
this buyback.
That probably is. Seattle, by the way, got a little late buyback here. There were some 5.5s, I believe. Yeah, in the market. So went from 5 to 5.5 because the early money was on the Valkyries, who tough loss 2 nights ago for the Valkyries, where they were kind of playing slightly uphill through the entire game, and then they tied it. And then a foul called, 1 second left on the clock. Alyssa Thomas splits a pair, and the Mercury get the win by 1 in Golden State on Monday. So that was first time in a while, maybe role reversal that the Valkyries were favorite. I actually played them in that game and did it there. We'll see if they fare better this afternoon, where certainly they have been the biggest surprise, I think, of the early season.
Yeah, but they've lost 4 or 5, and you're wondering if the attention finally catching up with them, not necessarily with them, but opponents no longer sort of sleeping on them. And this is a big game. Like I said, the Storm had won have won the previous 2 meetings. It'd be interesting to see how this game, because we know in the NBA going into the All-Star break, you get some wonky results, right? You just get some, maybe one team 1 foot out the door. And I wonder if we're going to get that coming up later with the Fever. So we'll get into the rest of the WNBA card, but Valkyries at the Storm, about to tip off at the Pacific Northwest. Biggest news of the day was fairly predicted and expected, I should say, is Bradley Beal agreeing to terms with the Los Angeles Clippers. So they're pretty loaded, all things considered. And I made the joke, but it's not really a joke, but it's now you can weather the storm with James Harden's expected eggs in the postseason. You now have enough firepower to offset that, and they really do. And so here we are. We have an adjustment in the market with the Clippers now climbing, not significantly, but they're at 22-1. And I know Beal has been a punching bag, but yes, at $50 million, he's ridiculous salary and no value whatsoever from a team standpoint. But at his current price for the Clippers, he does have value. So I wonder if I know the West is loaded. Are you a believer in the Clippers at all in this regard?
Yeah, I don't know. I understand why there's a little bit of movement in their favor here, but they're still like the seventh price in the West. If you look at who's ahead of them, the Thunder, the Rockets,
Crazy,
the
right?
Nuggets, the Timberwolves, the Lakers, the Warriors. So that would, I mean, the Clippers, if you're just going by odds here, I mean, it's not going to necessarily play out that way. They'd be the seventh seed in the West. So, it's wide open, but I don't know, Doug, if that's enough, because now you have Harden, you have Kawhi, and you have Bradley Beal. Is there enough basketballs to go around?
I think there is. I think these are guys that are pretty hungry while having Kawhi, who's done it before and he can set the tone. Now, they're going to be masters of load management. So there will definitely be plenty of mouths, fewer mouths to feed, I guess, in the regular season. I guess the question is Kawhi's durability. And then, Harden played, I think I want to say the fifth most moments, minutes last year in the regular season. So is that sustainable? I mean, he is a strong hoss. I mean, for all his laziness and criticism, he is a very talented player when he wants to be. And his I can see his body holding up much more than Kawhi's, given the track record. I just wonder about this team. It's really hard to put it all together for one run. I mean, even the Thunder last year had trouble, right? That's why
Hmm.
they lost the conference semis. Dallas was able to put it together. So they were some pieces that came together and then got to the NBA finals. It's just easier said than done. Even the Miami Heat, when they brought in LeBron, Bosh, and Wade, they should have won the title. I mean, they were up 1-0 and up double digits in fourth quarter in game two, but it's still hard to get there. I don't know if this Clippers team has all the it's just really hard to get it done, and new pieces rarely do.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm a little bit. I'm not necessarily a seller, but I'm definitely not a buyer necessarily on the Clippers. I just think a lot of people to climb over. Even though there's certainly some talent, certainly more offensive firepower on this team now.
Yeah, and that's absolutely what it is. And they're going to be just a wagon, I think, in the regular season. I can see that happening because they do play well and blah blah blah. But yeah, let me ask you this: if you're going to bet the West, wouldn't you just bet to win it all? Because if you come out of the West, how high is that power rating going to be? And these are things to think of. Going into conference championship week in the NFL, I always like to take the underdog on the futures line, the Super Bowl line, in case that permutation comes out, because they will have just beaten a really good team and that power rating is going to go up. So it's not like so in this case, the Clippers against, let's call it the Cavs, would be a power rating of whatever it is, right?
Hmm.
But if the Clippers survive the West and face the Cavs in the finals, the Clippers power rating is going to be that much higher. So I think it's important. I would say 22-1 is a much better value than the Clippers at the West at 12-1. I think that the Clippers, if they survive the carnage out West, will be boosted in terms of a power rating in a finals matchup.
Yeah, I think if you're betting conference futures, probably the value is in the East. Even though it's not as loaded and it's a little bit more wide open. I think than the West, even though there seemingly are more better teams in the West heading into the season. So yeah, I would not be betting conference futures. I think necessarily for the West with a little bit of a dark horse. I think you might be able to get away with that in the East.
True. True. All right. And extracting anything from summer league, has anything caught your eye in terms of futures on the regular season or playoffs? And the summer league games are different.
Not really. That our guy from the Pacers, Johnny Furphy, is just dunking on everybody. I mean, he has been the star of stars out here in Las Vegas. So we'll see if he gets a little bit more clock for the Pacers, but nothing really. We know at the summer league, in terms of the rookies, you're not going to see the higher end guys more than one, maybe even two games. Cooper Flag's obviously been shut down. You're not going to see Edgecombe keep playing necessarily. So a lot of the later part of the summer league games are for the real diehards like you, Doug, that are the real big NBA heads that are looking to see, okay, who's going to be that last guy to make the roster, who's going to get a camp invite for September, October before the NBA season, because that's what it is. Because you're not going to see any of these high end lottery picks play more than a couple games.
It is nice kind of being on the right side of history. 15 years ago or so, Wes, I was checking out Summer League early and often. My brother would drive from LA and we'd go, and it'd be really fun to see some of these guys. I was there when Jeremy Lin schooled John Wall, number one overall pick, and Linsanity was really birthed, although it didn't really get come to fruition until New York. But it is awesome to see some of these guys, especially the mid majors, which I know you're a huge hoops fan in college. When a guy can play, and nowadays there's just much more attention, and some of these guys get drafted even. But you watch the mid majors, and a guy like Damian Lillard, let's say he wasn't the 7th overall pick. Let's say he's a late first rounder, early second. You believe in these guys, and then you see them play on a level playing field. It is refreshing to kind of validate your own opinion. So I like it, and it's sort of a Woodstock of NBA heads. And it's everyone's relaxed, and it's a casual vibe. There's no stress, although some of the front offices maybe with free agency. So I like it a lot. But it's gotten too popular now. It's a hot ticket, and everyone's crowding in the gyms, and it's really difficult to kind of make your way and accomplish everything you want to accomplish when you go.
What was it for Cooper Flag and Bronny the other night? A few $100s to get in the building. It used to be you kind of could just decide 20, 30 minutes before, hey, let's go over to Thomas and Mack and watch a couple games, and you could pretty much sit where you want. It wasn't sold out. And even in the smaller Cox Pavilion, which is the Rebels practice facility and also where the women's team plays a lot of home games, it was a little bit easier to get in. Now it is very much a hot ticket because it is a little bit like NBA con, if you will. It is an NBA convention. All the executives are here. A lot of the players come into town because they want to hang out in Vegas. A few years ago, some of the players used to have skills academies out here that coincided with the summer league. I know LeBron did. I believe Kevin Durant did, a couple others. And, you just get all these people here, all the agents, all the real movers and shakers in professional basketballs. And it's still big for the players, too. It's guys that obviously want to make the club, or maybe they're going to show something for another club, or potentially some opportunities overseas. So these games matter to these guys, though. I mean, they're a lot more competitive than maybe you would think, like a casual summer league type game.
We should mention yesterday, Sarah went 1-0, nice under in her WNBA game. I had 2 summer league plays on the same game. I went 1-1, but I had the big play on the the over that I talked about, the Knicks and Nets, and that got there. And I'm looking to play the Knicks over again tomorrow. They are pushing pace per Mike Brown's instructions, and the only game that went under was game 2, and both teams shot under 20% from 3, and it went under by 3 points. So tomorrow, I'm on that game. We don't have a show tomorrow, but there's no line out or over under. But the Knicks are playing the Pacers, and I would highly recommend the over. So once it's posted, I'm going to bet the over. The Knicks offense really leaves a lot to be desired. They struggle, but eventually they got there. And frankly, I'm looking to fade this Nets team. They stink. I know Drew Timmy got some attention, but they're 0-3, and they do not look good at all. So there's some teams I'm fading hard now. As Wes was alluding to, you got to pay attention to lineups and things along those lines. But I'm also going to look at the Celtics at the Lakers tomorrow. I think the Lakers stink. This whole Bronny James. There's people peacocking and really celebrating and thinking they're validated. The ones that laugh, all you people with your nepotism takes are eating crow now. No such thing. These guys are morons, and they're so myopic and blinded by the love of LeBron. It is still nepotism. I hope Bronny continues to evolve. It's exciting. He seems like a good guy and everything. But just because he put up, 17, 5, and 5 in a single summer league game, are we supposed to ignore like the 1 for 11 or whatever he shot in the previous 2 games?
And you're playing,
forget that it's not regular season. It's still summer league.
Yeah, you're playing back end of the roster guys, and some guys that quite frankly aren't going to be on rosters, that are going to be on, maybe 2-way contracts with G League affiliates, or potentially are going to play over in Europe. It's not like you're playing against a ton of minutes against regular NBA starters, throughout the entire league. So, what do they say? Slow your roll.
And on top of that, even in the summer league, he stunk kind of in another game, and he hit okay, so he hit a step back three last night, but he also bricked a step. I mean, they're acting like he's carving up for 3-5 games, not just one game. So it's really just blind love, and that's okay. Look, fan is short for fanatic, but let's pump the brakes. So I like the Celtics over the Lakers tomorrow. I mean, look, Brad Stevens is calling challenges. Okay, they're invested for whatever reason, and they're chucking a lot of threes. I don't love their personnel, but I like it enough. I like it more than the Lakers. And Dalton Connect is just getting vilified and ridiculed. I mean, the Lakers already tried to trade him once. I don't think there's going to be much of a market for him now after Bronny's outplaying him.
Well, it is. It is very much. There is a little bit of a preseason, like an NFL preseason. Even though these guys are all playing hard, certain teams we know take this maybe a little bit more seriously than others in the summer league. What you were talking about there with Boston, it was just like I remember the great run that the Indianapolis Colts had in the 2000s. They never took the preseason seriously. Starters didn't play. Tony Dungy and Bill Polian and the company didn't care. So certain teams take different approaches here, and that's something you monitor not only through summer league but also as we get to NFL preseason, which is less than a month away.
There's a gap in roster talent too. I mean, that's the other component to this. Is some guys have some gems they drafted, and others are trying to run everything through Bronny. So and look, there's going to be, like Cooper Flagg in his second game, which was his last game. He was asked to play point guard, bring the ball up a lot. So some of that stuff you're working on is not even for the betterment of winning, which is fine. Every team can approach it differently. So when you have sort of those angles you can exploit and attack, like that's an opportunity to make some money. So that's why I was talking about the Knicks pace. The pace has been there. They've gone over 2 of the 3 games. The other one was a fluke under. So, and I think the Indiana Pacers will be able to maintain. They had in their last game, they had all 5 starters in double digits. They had one guy off the bench in double digits. They're going to go up and down. The Nets were just pathetic, and they still went over. So I think this game's going to fly. I think we're looking at a 200 sort of point plateau. I look at Pacers team total. So whenever they get posted, and I'm excited for that. Again, no show tomorrow, no show Friday because the WNBA All-Star break, but those are things to keep an eye on. And we should be in really good hands there. And I want to keep pressing that betting angle when those lines get posted. So any more summer league thoughts, Wes, before we turn the page to the W?
No, I may need some action, so I may follow you on that. I think I've maybe made 2 summer league bets so far. It's not something that I really delve as much into because number one, it's a little bit nice to have a break. When you go all year long, certain people are specialists where they're just football season or they're just basketball season or they're just baseball. So it's nice to have kind of a couple days off, even though we never take a day off. We always find something to bet on around here, whether it's WNBA or some of the soccer events that we've had this summer. So, looking forward, we will get to kind of normal once we get some baseball started on Friday because no games on Thursday. So it's nice to have a couple days, man, get a little football prep in. So ready to go.
Still gambling, though. Still get football prep. I like that. Okay, so we've had 2 results already in the WNBA. The first one was an absolute stinker by the Chicago Sky, who are playing without essentially their 3 best players because Vandersloot's out for the year already. Then Ariel Atkins out. She hurt her knee in the last game, missed the second half. And then Angel Reese with a leg injury, a late scratch. And so I had my biggest bet in the season and things like that on the under as well. So this one, I mean, Chicago put up 49 points. It was gross.
25.4% shooting.
Their highest scoring quarter was 13. So it was as bad as it looked. They lost by 37 to the Atlanta Dream, who, by the way, were playing without Ryan Howard, who's banged up as well with a knee injury. She's going to miss the rest of the month of July. So, I mean, look, this team isn't good to begin with, but to have that kind of performance is pretty gross. And then the game that just ended, Phoenix off that big win that you mentioned against Golden State, goes to Minnesota and just gets worn down. So, double-digit win for the Lynx, gosh. And then that's where we sit right now. And game underway. We mentioned that Seattle Storm game hosting the Valkyries 12-11. We've had a couple lead changes here. Golden State with the 1-point lead on the road. Any opinion on the live wagering? Are you keeping an eye on things?
Yeah, just watching a little bit of a slow start here offensively, which is good for the under here. So if I want to try to find a middle, I'm at under 157.5. So if this gets in the mid 140s, I would certainly consider, because I feel like this game is going to be close, and the odds tell you 2-possession game, 5.5 was the closer. So let me cycle back to our first game today, the Dream in the Sky. This got steamed up to 10. And it was known that Angel Reese, I think it was even known last night, she probably was not going to go, and that they were going to hold her out here. And keep in mind, the All-Star break and the All-Star game festivities in Indy kind of plays a little bit into this, where maybe it was like, you know what, we could have maybe had her go, but we're going to have precautionary measures. And Angel obviously is going to be part of All-Star weekend this weekend in Indianapolis. And a lot of these other players are too. And this was one that benefited me on a prop, where I played Angel Gray under not Angel Gray, Alicia Gray under 19.5 points. So when this is double digits, it's like, okay, this looks like maybe there's a blowout here. And that played a factor, because Alicia Gray did not play in the fourth quarter. They were up 30 plus the Dream. So and they're only playing 9 players too, by the way. So they're not going that deep in rotations, but they're not going to take chances with a lot of these starters, Doug. And I think that you saw that a little bit with Gray, and you saw that a little bit in the Mercury and the Lynx game. Even though that game was a little bit more competitive, the Lynx had at least somewhat of a comfortable lead, but certainly wasn't a blowout. Nafisa Collier only plays 26 minutes. That was part and parcel because she was in foul trouble in the first half. But they took the starters out with like 3 minutes to go in that game, because I think they were up 12, where it's like still gettable for the underdog, but more than likely the game is in hand. So that, I think, is something you want to keep in mind tonight with these games. It's like, if you anticipate a blowout, you're going to get these starters playing a lot less minutes than they normally would, and they're not going to leave them in the game when they're up 25 like they would if there wasn't the All-Star break.
Well, and teams are hitting a wall right now in this sport. It is basically the half point of the season. So in other sports, it's past the first half, like in the NBA. So they really hit a wall. But still, I think you got some tired legs going on right now with some of these teams, and sometimes you're emotionally checked out. You got one foot out the door. It's senioritis.
Oh yeah,
especially for. I think we saw a glimpse of that with the Indiana Fever last night. Now they had the Liberty the next day, so that's a look ahead spot. But I think you're right. I think it's really interesting to see what happens with the Fever. So let's get into this game at Bet Rivers. The Liberty are 9.5-point home favorites over Indiana. Over under 163.5. Liberty have not exactly been world beaters. They've been stumbling around since losing Jonquel Jones for an extended period of time, and they're just not the same team. I also, and this is something Albert and I have talked about on this show, Wes, is this league is shifting to a lot more athleticism, the 3-and-D players. And I think that athleticism, the track and field athlete, like I want to say, is really inhibiting players like Sabrina Ionescu and who are just slow. Rachel Banham, Marina Mabry, they just can't get as much done that they used to in this league, especially Ionescu. And they're making her play some defense, and it's wearing on them. And I think it takes a lot out of them. So people like Sanaya Rivers and who are uber athletic, Tipton on the Fever are awesome. And if you can jump out of the gym, and Max playing well as starting center for Phoenix. So I just think we have to be careful. Like as much as the Fever look like they're about to lay an egg, and I highly doubt Caitlin Clark's going to play. I'm not in a rush to lay the 9.5.
No, I'm not either, and that's why I went with the total. At 163.5 is out there at Bet Rivers. I played under 164.5. I just think it's number one. Caitlin's probably not going to go. Even if it's a precautionary, and we don't know yet long term what this is going to be, if this is going to be more multiple games, but obviously, there's a chance to have her an All-Star weekend. She entered into the 3-point contest that was announced yesterday, obviously before the game. And, I think that there is some fatigue to what you say, Doug. 2 days ago, it was Aaliyah Boston Day, who comes out of the city of Boston, and that's where the game was last night against Connecticut. So a lot of stuff going on, and having to have back-to-back, right before the All-Star break. So I did like the under here, because if Caitlin doesn't play, even though her defense has not been as bad as it has been earlier in the season, the Fever, I think, clearly are a better defensive team without her. Much better offensive team. So I don't want to be that one that's like, oh, they're good without her. No, they're not. They need 22 on the floor if they want to, run this somewhat far and at least be somewhat of a championship contender. But defensively, we've seen some of the results. We saw that game against Minnesota in the Commissioner's Cup where they absolutely locked up Minnesota. And I think defensively they gel a little bit more without 22, partially because of the injuries that she has had all season. So I did play the under here. And the Liberty, by the way, who have not been great defensively all year, have been better of late. They've held their last 4 opponents to under 80 points. A lot of that is Natasha Cloud being back. So, she's really, I think, made a difference for that team defensively because we know Sabrina, she's pretty iffy on the perimeter defensively. So I think under in order. And I think also the Liberty, they're going to have some motivation here because if you remember back in mid-June, it was a Saturday game. It was the game where Caitlin had missed a few games. And then she came back and hit a few of those logo threes, had a big game against the Liberty, and they put over 100 on the Liberty in that game. I think it was 101-87, if memory serves me correctly, for that final score. But so I think the Liberty defensively certainly are motivated. And I think the Fever without Caitlin certainly don't run as much offensively.
So let me ask you about the Fever defense. Said they're better. What about in this specific situation? So they played really well in the Commissioner's Cup game defensively, and then the next game with the Aces. But I feel like that was circumstantial, given that the money was on the line and everything. Now, with one foot out the door towards All-Star break, maybe they got a lot of stuff. I mean, it's in their hometown. I wonder if that defense will be as sharp. I would almost look to bet the Fever team total under more than anything.
Yeah, that could be a different angle too. And look, the Fever, the last 3 games have given up 82, 83, and 77. But those have been pretty high-paced games because you have had Caitlin on the floor. And I think that they are better offensively when they run. Well, when that's what they do, let her go, get that weak side rebound, and get up and down the floor. And try to spread them out and shoot threes. And they had been doing pretty well. They've won their last 3, didn't cover last night because they had some iffy shooting, but grinded it out and got a win. And sometimes you have to do that against some of the lower teams in the WNBA. But I think that the Fever, they are very pace dependent in terms of, whether Caitlin is on the floor or not. They're much faster with her. They're more willing to run. They're more willing to take quicker shots in early in the shot clock. And I just don't know how willing they are to do this here necessarily tonight, assuming she doesn't go, which I think the market is pretty much telling you that she's not likely to play. I think they opened this 8 at the end of the game because I was monitoring this. We were doing a British Open golf draft last night, and I was looking at the screen, and I saw 8 come out. I was like, okay, this is probably going to go up. So if you want to bet the Fever, you would wait, obviously, until the very last minute and see if you can get 10 and a half. Because once she's officially ruled out, there's going to be, the market always reacts on news, right? So even though it's kind of priced in, this will go to 10. This will go to 10 and a half. This will go to 11.
Any chance she's playing, is there?
I really don't. I think
I'd be stunned.
Yeah, they're trying to keep it close to the vest. So she's officially questionable, but I don't think you do that. Even if this is a mild aggravation of the groin strain, you want to see if she can play because that's so big for the league, Doug. It really is that she somehow can participate, over the weekend. If she can't go, she can't go. But I don't think they want to take any chances.
I agree. And groins are tricky. I mean, I if you like someone else in the 3-point contest and odds are posted, I would bet them now because I think she's going to be a scratch for that too, or she's not going to shoot well. This growing injury, they don't mess around. Like that could linger all year. And remember, she sat out the Commissioner's Cup game. So they're going to prioritize the long-term success of this team. And I mean, maybe she could just go through the motions in All-Star weekend. I'm not optimistic. I would bet under her if you get a points prop in the All-Star game.
Right.
I already have Kelsey Mitchell to win All-Star Game MVP, and Angel Reese as well. Some ridiculous odds are out there. So I'd look into some of that. But yeah, for me, I don't see eye to eye with you on the under. I think it's too low of a number. I thought this would be more like 167.5. The Sun play him tough. That's a tense, new rivalry between those two teams. This team with Colson and McDonald running the ball up and Kelsey Mitchell, they can run up and down, and this Liberty team wants to push as well. So 163.5 feels like it's not high enough for me to play an under.
But the Liberty have been playing better defense here, and I'm willing to, not look at the macro season numbers and kind of look a little bit more micro in the last 4 games, holding opponents to under 80, including the Dream, who are a high-tempo team and held them to 72 recently. So, I could see this maybe for the under. I think it's good if this is a blowout. If this gets a little bit out of hand and maybe in the fourth quarter, let's say the Liberty are up 15 or the 16 with 4 minutes to go. Are they really going to have that sense of urgency, And I think you're going to see Sabrina sit and probably Stewie sit, if they know that they've got the game in hand. And if they see maybe the Fever wave the white flag, right, where they take Boston out and they take Mitchell out and they take Flash Howard out and then play the reserves. So it's all about kind of how you think the game flow is going to be. And I think the market clearly telling you that they're very strong on the Liberty side. Once Caitlin's announced officially out, this is probably going to go up. This probably has a little bit of runway to go up another point or point and a half.
Okay, so you'd mentioned earlier you're looking at some unders for props. Would you play anything like Sabrina or someone like that with the prop market in this particular game?
Yeah, what I was kind of eyeballing here, Doug, is actually on the Fever side. Would be Kelsey Mitchell on the under. Now, usually when we're handicapping this, we're kind of like, okay, somebody's got to replace the scoring, right? Even though Caitlin really hasn't been scoring that much because of the injuries, she's certainly been a great ball distributor, I think, over the last 3 games. But Kelsey Mitchell maybe at under 18.5. I know she's averaging 19, but she might get the Natasha Cloud assignment. And Natasha Cloud, we know, one of the better defensive guards in the league. So Kelsey Mitchell might not have as much room to move. And plus, because she's handling the ball more, she's got to be a little bit more of a ball distributor, assuming Caitlin doesn't play. So she's got to try to get Boston involved in a pick and roll. She's got to try to get Flash Howard involved. She's got to find the shooters, Lexi Hall, Sophie Cunningham off the bench. Cunningham, by the way, finally hitting some shots and has played a lot better over the last 4 games. I think that's what the Fever thought that they were getting. Slow start, but it's a good sign for them to see her at least get involved and give them double digits off the bench. So Kelsey Mitchell under points is the one that kind of stood out to me at 18.5.
All right, do you want to make that an official play?
Let's go ahead and do that. Yes.
Okay. Why say no when it feels so good to say yes? All right.
You talked me into it.
That used to be something I used to say at the blackjack table back in the day when it was, fun with your fellow friends and all that, making the road trip to Vegas. The next game, I'm going to pull the trigger on the Aces. I think they need this game. I think they run through the tape here into the All-Star break. There's a little bounce in their step, and I think Becky Hammond's developing some of the role players around Asia. Obviously, she's fantastic. I'd like to see a little more initiative out of Jackie Young because I think she's so skilled. But the Aces should be able to score at will. And again, I like some of the bench players. They've played hard. Nice win last weekend over the Valkyries. And the Wings I think they're just coming apart at the seam, so to speak. So Paige Beckers, obviously she's fantastic, but Arike Gumbawale 0 for 10 in her last game. Quinterly looks a little lost now that Gumbawale's back. So there's not, and then Lee Rue's fine. I mean, she's fine, but this Wings team is really, really depleted defensively, and they have their moments offensively, but not consistent enough.
No, they're not. And so, yeah, I don't know what to do with this Wings team. Is Carrington going to play? I think she's listed as questionable now, but everybody's been in and out of the lineup. I like Paige, and then I like Isaiah James. I think she's a nice piece.
I like her a lot.
Nice complimentary piece. And, Maddie Segrist is out. Maddie Segrist is somebody I think that I like off the bench, Maddie to Batty. Obviously not a building block for the franchise, but they just, I think, are trying to figure out who they are. And with the shortened season, because what do we say a lot about NBA teams? I think it was something that Mark Boyle, the longtime radio voice of the Pacers, once said. It takes you 25 to 30 games kind of figure out who you are. Well, how long is it going to take for some of these WNBA teams? I think it's going to take, well into the season. For like the Lynx that had continuity, they know who they are after like three to 5 games. They know exactly who they are. But a team like Dallas with a new coach, a rookie that's kind of like your lead player, some veterans that like Arike that might be on the way out. Dallas isn't going to figure this out anytime soon. So I certainly don't know if I want a part of Dallas. The line, though, looks a little bit short, which kind of, pushes me away from the Aces, because I think your logic and your theory is right in terms of the fact, they kind of, feel like they need this game, get to 500 before the break, because the Aces, I believe, would be out of the playoffs if they were to be held today. They're below the 8 spot. So they'd be out. And I think, I do think they need this, but boy, that seems like such a short line here that kind of, it gets my senses up, do I go where the stink is, or do I go away from it? Because the line does look like it stinks a little bit on the surface. But to your point on the Aces, Aaliyah Nye is somebody that I think is really starting to develop a little bit. For that Becky Hammond's getting more confidence in her and playing her, because quite frankly, Jewel Lloyd has not delivered, I think, to what they thought that she was going to be. So nothing yet for me right now. I'll be monitoring some of the prop market. I still think Chelsea Gray is kind of like past her prime a little bit for this team. And I don't know if they have that other guard that can kind of put juice in the offense. Like, they don't have that good, solid backup point guard that's young and hungry that I think really, can get this team out and run a little bit. So I still got a little bit of concern about this Aces team.
Yeah. You don't flip the switch and figure it all out. But I thought they had a real gutsy performance over the weekend. And you're right. Like, the inconsistency of this Vegas team can show up. But I wouldn't think the line is too fishy. I mean, Ogunbowale is going to play better than she did in her last game. So that's part of it. And they're healthier and they're at home. And the Aces are still the Aces. But I think the spot, I would have made this line 7. So I don't think it was like that crazy. But I'll play the 6. I'll play -6 as my only official play today. I do think Asia is going to eat all night. Like, I don't think there's anyone in Dallas who could stop her. But I do think the Aces need more of a supporting cast. So I wonder if she's going to be deferential at all and not light it up. But man, 22.5 points feels cheap for a player the caliber of Asia Wilson, the reigning unanimous MVP.
I wonder if this Aces team, if they're going to be one that makes a move. I think that they are a team that need to make some kind of a move at the trade deadline. They just, even Asia.
They got Melissa Smith.
They did.
Melissa Smith.
They did, but I think a little bit more here. Even Asia, who's been fabulous, she's even seen a drop in numbers, because I think that, the guards have been so inconsistent and have really killed them. So, I don't know if their championship window is necessarily still open. I don't know. I don't want to completely. It's closed, but I don't know if the window's locked, is what I'm saying. I don't know. I'm still very cynical on this team.
Yeah, they don't have the horses. They just don't. Last year, that you could tell they were not the same team, and they got defeated, obviously. Asia's fantastic, but like you said, a little long in the tooth, Chelsea Gray, and then Jewel Lloyd has not delivered. If that turns out to be a good trade, and they flip Kelsey Plum for her, but they need Jewel Lloyd to channel some of her skill set from a couple years ago. Last year, she was a traffic cone on defense and didn't do much offensively. So, well, we turned the page. There's obviously a futures market at Bet Rivers, so there's some really good opportunities and some fun. The yes nos to make the playoffs. I think, like I said, the Valkyries have lost 4 or 5. Now they're playing right now, so their lines aren't up. But some of these markets, Albert talked about, the Aces we just discussed. He's like, he doesn't think it's a horrible bet, like plus 650 or so to miss the playoffs. And I agree. That's obviously the only way I would play that, but I think it might be worth pulling the trigger there.
Yeah, I don't know what else that they can do. I know they brought in Alyssa Smith, I think, basically to pretty much move Aja to the 5, where she can out athlete pretty much all the other 5s in the entire league. But I don't see it getting better with Lloyd. I just don't think it's the right mix necessarily for this team. Chelsea Gray, on the backside and had that foot injury in the finals a couple years ago. So their guards to me, like you said, Jackie Young's gonna be key. Like Jackie Young needs to turn it up here. And she's going to need to carry more of the load. I think if this team has any chance to even not only make the playoffs, but maybe even potentially win a series, but they're still not they're not up there with the Lynx and the Liberty, and I guess you got to throw the Mercury in there now, even though they dropped one today.
Well,
They've got a lot of injuries too, but all of a sudden it's funny how it works, Doug, with the Mercury. Just as a side note here, how DeWanna Bonner now remembered how to play basketball, because she certainly didn't know how to do it in Indiana, and that thing was just doomed from the start. And now she's out in Phoenix, and she absolutely kills it the other night and really won them the game against Golden State.
Yeah, that burned me. She had 22 points, 7 of 8 or something off. She missed one shot, and it was just so painful to watch because that was the difference in that game, as you alluded to. So I'm all in on the Mercury. I think they're the best team. I think when all is said and done, they will be the team that wins it all, or at one point they'll be the favorite. They'll be up, 2-1 in the finals or something like that. I really think once you get Copper back and Sabali and these rookies continue to evolve, I think they're going to be the team to beat. I really do. And I'm sitting, I talked about 30-1 and 20-1 on this show. So highly recommended it at the time. I hope some of you watching or listening got there. Adam Osimo chiming in on the chat. I needed the Mercury to cover 12.5, and they lost by 13. I feel your pain.
Yeah.
I feel your pain. Speaking of which, just a reminder, we have tons of other content here. The British Open pre-tournament boost. Bet Rivers is offering a 30% profit boost for the Open Championship. Opt in and get a 30% profit boost on any pre-tournament wager on the Open. See the Bet Rivers app for full details on this offer. So that's an exciting time for golf bettors, and always subscribe and like. 2 weeks ago, we reached the 10,000 subscriber mark. Really well done by everyone behind the scenes and all of you watching. It's our currency. It's what we need in this world of YouTube. So please do that. Subscribe and like. It costs nothing. And so does the newsletter, bettingweeklystudios.com. Go sign up. Really good stuff. We're talking 30 pages. You get all the Bet Rivers odds. You get the links to all these shows on the Bet Rivers Network here on YouTube, and great breakdowns, soccer preview, tennis previews. There's so much good content. So we highly recommend it. And we are psyched to be part of the umbrella of Betting Weekly, because it's been thriving, and we pride ourselves on transparency and really intelligent betting talk, because we know there's a demand out there. And we hope to deliver on that supply or lack thereof and the demand that people want. So that's going to do it for this edition of Betting Weekly Fast Break in the Week. Again, all-star break for the W. Summer League still going on. We'll be back next Monday, 3 p.m. Eastern, every weekday, and noon Pacific. And Wes, any more thoughts on whether it be the W tonight or Summer League or anything going into the weekend?
No, just looking forward to the golf and seeing how this ends up tonight. If Caitlin's in fact going to go, and looking forward to seeing my city being showcased on All-Star Weekend for the WNBA, and getting ready for the second half of the season.
As for Valkyries and Storm, they are tied at 28, low-scoring game. We talked about the total at 156. The adjusted total with 2.5 to go in the first half, 145.5. So over 10 points shaded to the under. Tie game, adjusted spread right now. It is, as I call up my good stuff here at Bet Rivers, 4.5. So any opinion here? I thought it was a good spot to lay the 5.5 coming in, but I didn't do it with the Storm. This may be just a bad matchup for Seattle, so I'm in no rush to lay it. What about you?
Well, it's been a defensive series, like I mentioned, which is why I ended up on the under. And Kayla Thornton, who is on the All-Star team, going to represent the Golden State Valkyries, just hasn't had a shot the last couple games. And, I think the Valkyries are still kind of determining who is their big gun offensively? Is it Veronica Burton? Is it Kayla Thornton? And it's kind of by committee right now. So I think that they're having a tough time scoring the basketball. And this has been defensive battle in both the two games. And looks like we got another one today.
Would you look to get involved in the second half under? Yes, you could have had a great number at the beginning of the game, but that's neither here nor there. The question is about right now, or at halftime. Would you look to jump in on if you just are convinced it's a defensive series?
Sometimes I go the opposite way. I may look to see what the over is for a potential middle, because this game, unlike the first two games today, one was a complete blowout and one was a comfortable win. This looks like this is going to be a close game down the stretch. So that, that sometimes favors unders, though, because you take longer on the shot clock and have longer possessions. Or it could be like, okay, this is going to be a 2-possession game in the second half, and then you're going to get fouling. So we will see where it closes, as we're tied at 31 with 1:15 left to go.
Yeah, Bucko 4 to go, tie game. You're right. If I can get 4.5, I would look to do that. But obviously that could be wishful thinking given where we are in the live line. So we have the dogs barking in the background. Maybe the dog is the right play in this game. So Wes and I both look at the points there. But Seattle's going to want this game. But the Valkyries have lost 4 or 5. They're not going to go away quietly. They would love to get a W into the All-Star break. Like I said, that's going to do it for this week here on Betting Weekly Fast Break. Our next show is Monday. We'll resume our Monday through Friday schedule, 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific. Good luck to everyone this weekend. Enjoy the basketball, both in the NBA and the W. And we'll see you back here next week. For Wes Reynolds and everyone behind the scenes, we appreciate your time invested in us. We hope to deliver on that request and promise, and we'll see you back here next week.